When a woman stops chasing, something quietly changes in her life. At first, it may feel uncomfortable because chasing often comes from the desire to be understood, accepted, or valued. Many women spend years explaining themselves, trying to fix relationships, and giving more than they receive. They believe if they just try harder, people will finally appreciate them. But Islam teaches a deeper form of dignity. Your worth is not built by how much you chase others. It is built by how firmly you stand in your character and trust in Allah. The moment a woman stops chasing approval, attention, and constant reassurance, her life begins to shift in ways she never expected. She stops explaining herself to everyone. She stops explaining herself to everyone. This is one of the quiet changes that happens when a woman grows in emotional and spiritual strength. For many years, some women feel the need to justify every decision they make. If someone misunderstands them, they immediately try to correct it. If someone questions their choices, they rush to explain their intentions. At first, this behavior comes from a good place. They want harmony and understanding. But over time, constant explanation becomes exhausting. A strong woman begins to realize that not every misunderstanding needs correction. When you try to control how everyone sees you, you give away too much emotional energy. You replay conversations in your mind and think about what you should have said differently. This habit keeps the mind busy and the heart restless. Islam teaches dignity and inner stability. Your worth is not defined by whether everyone understands you. Your responsibility is to act with sincerity and integrity before Allah. People may still interpret your actions differently, and that is part of life. Many misunderstandings come from perspective rather than intention. Even if you explain something perfectly, another person may still see it differently. Trying endlessly to fix every opinion keeps you trapped in a cycle of defense. Emotional maturity begins when you accept that you cannot control every perception. When your actions are honest and your intentions are clear, constant explanation becomes unnecessary. A woman who stops explaining herself excessively begins to speak less but with more clarity. She chooses her words carefully instead of reacting quickly. Silence becomes a form of confidence rather than discomfort. She understands that not every comment requires a response. Sometimes quiet dignity communicates more strength than long explanations. This shift also protects emotional peace. When you no longer chase understanding from everyone, your mind becomes calmer. You stop analyzing every conversation after it ends. Instead, you trust that your character will speak over time. Consistency in behavior builds a stronger reputation than repeated explanations ever could. Islam encourages sincerity rather than approval. When your focus shifts toward pleasing Allah instead of pleasing everyone, your priorities become clearer. You begin asking yourself a different question, not, do people understand me, but did I act in a way that pleases Allah? This change in focus brings deep inner stability. Some people may initially feel confused by this change. They were used to seeing you explain yourself quickly. Now they see you calmer and less reactive. This does not mean you became distant. It means you became more secure in who you are. You will still communicate when communication is necessary. Healthy relationships require conversation and clarity. But the difference is that you no longer explain yourself out of fear of being misunderstood. You speak when it is meaningful, not when it is emotionally driven. This habit also reduces conflict. When every comment receives a long defense, discussions easily turn into arguments. Choosing calm responses prevents unnecessary tension. Your energy remains protected instead of scattered across many explanations. Over time, people begin noticing your calm confidence. They see that you are not easily shaken by opinions. This quiet steadiness often earns more respect than constant self-defense. Confidence appears naturally when you stop seeking approval. Stopping the habit of over-explaining also strengthens self-trust. You learn to stand by your decisions without needing constant validation. This trust grows from knowing your intentions are sincere. A woman who no longer explains herself to everyone becomes emotionally lighter. She still cares about others, but she does not allow every opinion to disturb her peace. Her focus returns to living with integrity before Allah, and that clarity changes everything. Her energy becomes protected. Her energy becomes protected. When a woman stops chasing people, the first change she notices is not in others but inside herself. For a long time, chasing attention, understanding, or reassurance drains emotional energy. You think about what to say next, how to fix a situation, or how to make someone see your value. Your mind keeps returning to the same conversations again and again. This constant mental effort slowly exhausts the heart. When she stops chasing, that cycle begins to break. Her thoughts become quieter, and the energy that was scattered among people starts returning to her own life. Emotional energy is a precious resource. Just like physical strength, it can be used wisely or wasted. When someone spends hours overthinking people's reactions, they are giving away their focus without realizing it. Protecting your energy means deciding where your attention belongs. Instead of chasing responses or approval, a woman begins investing her energy in things that truly strengthen her, her faith, her growth, and her peace. Often women chase because they want harmony in relationships. They try to fix every misunderstanding quickly. But when one person keeps repairing everything alone, the relationship becomes unbalanced. Protecting your energy does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying the entire emotional weight by yourself. A healthy relationship requires effort from both sides. When a woman protects her energy, she also protects her thoughts. Instead of replaying conversations late at night, her mind becomes calmer. She realizes that not every silence needs to be filled and not every distance needs to be chased. This understanding creates emotional space. In that space, peace begins to grow. Islam teaches balance in relationships. You care for people sincerely, but you do not lose yourself in the process. When your energy is protected, your intentions become clearer. You give kindness without expecting constant recognition. You help others without exhausting your own well-being. This shift also improves your worship. When the mind is not overwhelmed by people's reactions, it becomes easier to focus on prayer and remembrance. Your heart feels lighter because your attention is no longer divided between many emotional concerns. Protecting your energy also strengthens your boundaries. You begin recognizing when a conversation is becoming draining or when a relationship is taking more than it gives. Instead of reacting emotionally, you step back calmly. This step back is not rejection, it is self-respect. You may notice that when your energy is protected, your words become fewer but more meaningful. You no longer speak out of urgency, you speak with intention. This calm communication often changes how others interact with you. Over time, people begin sensing this change. They notice that you are not constantly seeking reassurance or attention. Your calm presence creates a different kind of respect. Instead of chasing recognition, you quietly carry confidence. Another benefit of protecting your energy is emotional clarity. When your mind is not crowded with unnecessary worries about people, you begin seeing situations more clearly. Your decisions become wiser because they are not driven by emotional exhaustion. This habit also strengthens patience. When you are no longer drained, you have more emotional capacity to respond calmly. Difficult situations do not shake you as easily because your energy is preserved. A woman who protects her energy becomes steady from within. She still cares about people, but she does not sacrifice her peace to keep everyone comfortable. Her focus returns to what truly matters: her relationship with Allah, her personal growth, and a life built on calm dignity rather than constant pursuit. People begin to respect her more. People begin to respect her more. This change often surprises many women. For a long time, she believed that respect came from giving more, explaining more, and trying harder to keep everyone comfortable. She thought that if she proved her kindness and patience enough times, people would naturally value her more. But when a woman constantly chases approval, others may start taking her effort for granted. The moment she steps back and stops chasing, something shifts. Her calmness creates space, and in that space, people begin to see her differently. Respect is closely connected to boundaries. When a person is always available, always explaining, and always adjusting to others' expectations, their presence may begin to feel ordinary. But when a woman becomes more balanced and less reactive, people notice the difference. She is still kind, but she is no longer desperate to be understood by everyone. This quiet dignity naturally invites respect. Many people do not realize how much their behavior teaches others how to treat them. When you constantly seek reassurance, you signal uncertainty about your own value. But when you stand calmly in your character, you show confidence without needing to say it aloud. Confidence does not come from loud words, it comes from steady behavior. A woman who stops chasing does not argue over every opinion. She listens, but she does not feel the need to defend herself constantly. When she speaks, her words are measured and thoughtful. This calm communication carries more weight than endless explanation. People pay closer attention because she is not speaking from emotional urgency. Respect also grows when consistency appears. When your actions remain steady, regardless of others' reactions, people recognize your character. They see that you are not changing yourself just to gain approval. This stability builds trust over time. Another reason respect increases is because she no longer tolerates unnecessary disrespect. She does not react with anger or confrontation, but she quietly removes herself from situations that diminish her dignity. This silent boundary communicates strength. In Islam, dignity is part of faith. The believer is encouraged to show humility before Allah, but not humiliation before people. When a woman remembers her worth as a servant of Allah, she carries herself differently. Her confidence is rooted in faith rather than attention. People often test boundaries unconsciously. If someone keeps accepting poor treatment, others may continue that behavior without thinking. When she becomes calmer and more self-respecting, those patterns change. People adjust because they sense the difference. Her calmness also removes emotional drama from conversations. Without constant reactions, conflicts lose intensity. Others begin approaching her with more care because they see her balanced response. Over time, her presence itself becomes reassuring. People know she is not easily shaken by opinions or misunderstandings. This emotional stability is deeply respected. Interestingly, respect appears not because she demanded it, but because she stopped chasing it. By focusing on her own character and peace, she allowed respect to grow naturally. A woman who stands with quiet dignity changes how others interact with her. Her calm boundaries, balanced communication, and inner confidence create an atmosphere where respect becomes the natural response rather than something she must request. Her relationship with Allah becomes stronger. Her relationship with Allah becomes stronger. When a woman stops chasing people for attention, reassurance, or validation, she slowly notices something beautiful happening inside her heart. The emotional space that was once filled with overthinking about people begins to open. Instead of replaying conversations or worrying about how others see her, her thoughts begin turning toward Allah. This shift may feel small at first, but it is deeply powerful. When the heart stops depending on people for emotional stability, it naturally looks for a stronger place to rest. For many women, chasing often comes from a sincere desire to be understood or valued. When that effort is not returned, the heart feels unsettled. Islam gently redirects this need. It reminds us that the most stable relationship a person can build is with their Creator. Allah understands what others may never fully see. When a woman begins turning her concerns toward Him instead of people, her emotional foundation becomes stronger. This shift usually begins with dua. Instead of explaining her feelings repeatedly to others, she speaks privately to Allah. In those quiet moments of supplication, she finds something she was searching for elsewhere: reassurance. Allah hears what the heart struggles to say. Over time, this conversation with Allah becomes a habit. Her heart learns where to turn first when it feels heavy. When reliance on Allah increases, anxiety decreases. Many worries come from trying to control how others think or behave. Tawakkul changes this perspective. A woman who trusts Allah understands that not every outcome needs her effort to manage it. What is meant for her will come through Allah's plan. Her worship also becomes more meaningful. When her mind is no longer crowded with emotional confusion about people, she becomes more present in prayer. Salah becomes a moment of calm rather than another task in the day. Her focus deepens because her heart is clearer. Reading Quran also begins to feel different. Instead of reading quickly, she reflects on the guidance. The words speak to her situation and remind her that Allah's wisdom is greater than human approval. This stronger connection also builds emotional resilience. When a relationship disappoints her, she does not collapse in confusion. She remembers that Allah is the one who controls hearts and outcomes. This awareness brings calmness even in difficult moments. Her dua becomes more sincere as well. She no longer asks only for situations to change. She asks Allah to strengthen her patience, guide her decisions, and protect her heart. These prayers build inner stability. Over time, she notices that her peace does not depend on how others treat her. Her emotional balance comes from her trust in Allah. This independence brings dignity and calmness. People may not always understand this transformation. They may think she has become distant or quiet. In reality, she has simply redirected her reliance toward the one who never disappoints. This stronger relationship with Allah also brings clarity in decisions. She becomes less influenced by pressure and more guided by faith. Her choices align with what pleases Allah rather than what pleases everyone around her. When a woman's heart becomes attached to Allah, her life begins to feel steadier. She still cares about people and relationships, but her emotional foundation no longer depends on them. Her strength comes from a connection that cannot be shaken by human reactions. She chooses quality over attention. She chooses quality over attention. When a woman stops chasing people, one of the first things she begins to notice is how much of her time and emotional energy was once spent seeking attention rather than genuine connection. Attention can feel exciting in the beginning. It brings compliments, messages, and temporary reassurance. Yet attention alone does not build stability in relationships. Islam teaches that sincerity and character are the foundations of meaningful connections. When a woman understands this deeply, she begins to value depth over quantity. For many people, chasing attention becomes a habit without them realizing it. They respond quickly, give more effort than they receive, and keep conversations alive even when the other person shows little responsibility. This pattern slowly creates emotional imbalance. One person invests deeply while the other simply enjoys the attention. When a woman stops chasing, this imbalance becomes clearer. She begins recognizing the difference between people who value her and those who only enjoy being pursued. Choosing quality means becoming more selective about where you invest your time and emotions. Instead of keeping many shallow connections, she focuses on relationships that bring sincerity, respect, and peace. These relationships may be fewer in number, but they carry more meaning. A small circle built on trust is far more valuable than a large circle built on temporary interest. Islam encourages believers to surround themselves with people who remind them of Allah and encourage good character. When a woman prioritizes quality relationships, she naturally moves closer to those who strengthen her faith and emotional stability. These connections nurture her growth rather than drain her energy. Attention often comes easily, but sincerity requires effort and responsibility. Someone who truly values you will show consistency in their behavior. They will communicate with honesty and respect your boundaries. A woman who understands her worth learns to recognize these qualities clearly. This shift also protects her heart from unnecessary disappointment. When expectations are placed on attention rather than character, disappointment becomes common. But when she values sincerity, she becomes less affected by superficial interactions. Her emotional balance improves because her standards have become healthier. Another beautiful result of choosing quality is peace. Instead of constantly responding to many conversations or trying to maintain everyone's interest, she enjoys calmer interactions. Her relationships become more meaningful because they are built on genuine care rather than constant effort. People may notice that she is no longer available for every conversation or every situation. This change is not arrogance, it is awareness. She is simply protecting her emotional space and prioritizing what truly matters. This awareness also strengthens her self-respect. When she values sincerity over attention, she no longer feels the need to prove her worth repeatedly. She trusts that the right people will recognize her character naturally. Over time, her relationships become deeper and more supportive. Conversations carry more understanding, and connections become more stable. She feels emotionally secure because the people around her genuinely care. Quality relationships also bring spiritual benefit. Friends who encourage prayer, good behavior, and honesty strengthen her connection with Allah. These companions support her growth rather than distracting her from it. When a woman chooses quality over attention, her life becomes calmer and more meaningful. She no longer spends energy chasing temporary validation. Instead, she builds relationships rooted in sincerity, respect, and faith connections that nourish her heart rather than exhaust it. Her peace becomes her priority. Her peace becomes her priority. When a woman stops chasing people, approval, or constant reassurance, something inside her begins to settle. For a long time, many women believe that keeping everyone comfortable is their responsibility. They try to explain themselves, fix misunderstandings, and protect relationships even when it drains them emotionally. Slowly, they realize that constantly trying to maintain harmony by sacrificing their own peace is not sustainable. Islam teaches balance. Caring about others is important, but protecting your own heart is also part of wisdom. When peace becomes a priority, her decisions begin to change. She no longer feels the need to respond immediately to every comment or situation. Instead, she pauses and asks herself a simple question: will this conversation bring calmness or unnecessary tension? This small moment of reflection protects her emotional energy. Not every disagreement requires a reaction. Sometimes silence and distance preserve more peace than explanation. Many women discover that their emotional exhaustion came from trying to manage other people's feelings. They felt responsible for how others reacted, what they thought, and whether they remained satisfied. When she shifts her focus toward inner peace, she releases this burden. She understands that each person is responsible for their own reactions. Prioritizing peace does not mean avoiding responsibility. It means choosing healthier responses. She communicates calmly instead of reacting emotionally. She sets boundaries without hostility. These changes protect both her dignity and her emotional stability. This shift also changes how she spends her time. Instead of engaging in unnecessary drama or conversations that create stress, she invests her energy in activities that nourish her heart. Reading Quran, making dua, or spending time with supportive people becomes more valuable than proving a point. When peace becomes her priority, she also becomes more aware of what affects her emotionally. She recognizes situations that disturb her balance and steps away from them gently. This awareness prevents small problems from becoming overwhelming. Islam encourages believers to seek tranquility in remembrance of Allah. When her peace becomes important, she naturally increases dhikr and prayer. These acts strengthen her connection with Allah and stabilize her heart. Another change appears in her reactions. Situations that once caused strong emotional responses begin to feel smaller. She understands that not every problem deserves her full attention. Perspective grows, and patience becomes easier. People around her may notice this calmness. They see that she is no longer easily pulled into arguments or emotional chaos. Her balanced presence creates an atmosphere of stability. Instead of reacting to every situation, she responds thoughtfully. This calm approach often improves relationships. When she is peaceful within herself, her interactions become more respectful and clear. Others feel more comfortable around her because she does not bring unnecessary tension. Prioritizing peace also builds self-respect. She recognizes that her emotional well-being matters. Protecting her heart allows her to serve others with sincerity rather than exhaustion. A woman whose peace becomes her priority does not become distant from others. Instead, she becomes balanced. Her calmness strengthens her faith, protects her energy, and allows her to live with dignity and clarity. When a woman stops chasing, she does not become cold or distant, she becomes balanced. She still cares, but she no longer loses herself trying to keep everyone close. Islam teaches dignity, patience, and trust in Allah. When your heart depends on Allah instead of people, your life becomes calmer and clearer. The right people will remain without being chased, and what is meant for you will come without exhausting your soul.